Hey guys, how's it going? Today I'm going to show you how to greatly reduce waste while building your startup and reducing the guesswork. Let's get started. So I want to show you a process that we use at Nichemates to treat everything we do as a series of experiments instead of guessing and hoping for the best. And for that, we've created a very simple template that's inspired by the lean startup that we use if we want to test a hypothesis. So we have two types. I'm just going to show you in our current Notion setup. We have two types of hypothesis. One is a value hypothesis, which means we think that this feature or whatever would create value for the user. And then we have a growth hypothesis, which is we think that creating this will help grow the product, the traffic, or whatever you want to grow. And we give them a name. It's quite simple, really. We have a status, what state they're in. We give them a name, we give them the type, and we give them three values, which are impact, confidence, and effort. This is called the ICE score. There's millions of ways to, kind of prioritize your things that you're going to do. The main thing is that you do it because it's of utmost important to tackle the most high impact things first. And we give them a time frame. So we set expectations in terms of, okay, how long will this run before we know if we should continue going down this path and continue digging here. And then they can get a follow-on experiment and obviously also a previous experiment if it is a follow-on experiment, right? So this is quite simple. You don't necessarily need to do all this, but I will include a template in the description below that you can copy and obviously adapt to your own needs. It's just going to be a Notion template. And let's look at one of them and then fill out a new one as well. That's kind of what I want to do with you today. So if you look at the YouTube channel, which is, quite meta, but in essence, this YouTube channel in itself is an experiment for us, right? So I wanted to, before I even posted the first video, I wanted to see if people find what I have to say valuable, and I can do that with two ways, right? We can obviously go on Twitter and I can tweet and I can see and measure the response to the tweets, but I wanted to see if another type of content format, which is video, would resonate with people as well. And in order to do that, I basically went ahead and I had 4 subscribers for this channel. And I just said, okay, how can we basically create a minimum test that will help us measure this and then also make sure that we set criteria that will make it a no-brainer for us to continue with this, right? So we started with an assumption. What do I assume to be true in order to succeed? That's your basis. Then you say like, okay, how can we test this assumption, right? And how can we do it with the minimum effort possible, which is very important. A lot of times you will do things manually or you will just build half, kind of like your MVP mindset. But the idea is to just reduce waste, right? That's the whole idea. And a lot of times you can test and kind of make your way forward with much less than you would expect. And that's the whole point, right? I went ahead and then I was like, okay, we should get a number of subscribers by writing a compelling about section. So I did that. I wrote an about section for the channel on YouTube, and I just posted a screenshot of that and was like, okay, who wants to know more about this stuff, right? And I set a baseline. So the baseline is always like whatever you want to measure. A lot of times, hopefully, it won't be a vanity metric. Like subscribers is kind of a vanity metric because that will only ever go up, right? Like it's not really going to go down. Unless I do some stupid shit. But the idea is to use something like, let's see, on a YouTube video, I could say I want to have views or I want to have like the average watch time, right? And views is something that people are going to click on it, but if they churn after 3 seconds, then they haven't gotten any value out of your video. So they basically, you can make them aware of your video, but they don't like watching it. So that kind of is, you know, your value metric should be how long will people actually watch my video, because that means they find it valuable, right? So here I opted for a vanity metric because I don't really have anything else to kind of go off on. And I wrote down, okay, for this, we have like 3 kind of criteria, like measures of success. I say like, okay, this is a big success, you know, this is an acceptable, or this is like a clear failure, right? And oftentimes when setting goals, you will set one value from my experience, and then people will start being like, yeah, we didn't reach 100%, but we reached like 75. What does that mean, right? Like, does that mean we should not do it? Does that mean we should do it? You know, and then you come into this area where it's very much blurry, you know, like it will be more subjective than not to be like, yeah, this is worth more effort. I mean, that's still involved a lot of times, but I think setting these up front is good to kind of reduce the back and forth around these. But, you know, these are all, there will be some gut feeling involved, and there will be some guessing involved. That's just how it works. But I think it's good to get into a process of doing this, and that's what we're doing, right? Or that's what this whole thing is. And for me, for this experiment, I was saying like, okay, a big success would be 20 subscribers without even having one video. Like that was the point, not to create any content, because that takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of time. So tweeting about it is much less effort, and that's why I did that first. Acceptable would be 15, and a clear failure would be under 15 subscribers, right? And then I went in here, and in the time frame that we've set in the beginning, that is up here, we actually reached 16 subscribers, and it took 3 tweets to get there, which, if you look at our criteria, that's just acceptable. It's not a big success because that was meant to be 20, but we reached 80% of big success and 100% of acceptable. So I converted whatever I learned into success metrics. That's nothing new, you know, just kind of make it measurable. And what's more important is what you learn, right? And I think what learns is that the idea kind of resonates with people. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to have any subscribers without any content. Like, that's the whole point of YouTube channels, to have the content, right? And then I'll go ahead and say like, okay, should we pivot or should we persevere? Should we dig deeper or should we try something completely different? And I think because this wasn't super far off, and it's very hard to judge this without creating an actual video, I was like, okay, let's just, you know, keep going. Plus, I kind of talked myself into doing it on Twitter because I more or less promised that it was going to happen, and I've been, you know, talking about it for a while. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So we're going to add a follow-up experiment, which was the first YouTube video, and then that's that kind of closes the loop. So we didn't pivot. It was kind of persevere, because you need to give these things more time as well. And then we had this follow-up experiment, which was the first YouTube video. And I just, you know, went ahead and posted it, no editing, nothing. And the main thing here was that I could use a metric that was more of a value metric, like less of a vanity metric, right? Because I went in and I said, okay, I want to have 50% average watch time and 50 views, right? So why I'm showing this one is because it's interesting in terms of guessing. Like I said, you have to guess to some extent, right? And I was guessing that 50 views is good, 30 subscribers is good, 50% average watch time, and I was quite off with the views. As you can see, we had 280% of that, and I was kind of on point with the subscribers, but I was kind of off with the watch time, which seems to be more around like 30%. Like, I probably should have went ahead and looked at a benchmark here, but I didn't because I was lazy. So I did, you know, learn that, and from what I've seen is that people that know me from Twitter, the watch time there is quite good. So it's also kind of misleading to use average watch time, because it really, really depends on how primed people are to watch the video and follow what you have to say, right? So people that knew me, they watched it quite long. People that didn't, they watched it for 5 seconds because the quality was awful, right? Because it was just like no editing, nothing. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And what I've learned, from a lot of feedback, people care a lot about audio and video. I mean, that's quite a no-brainer, I would say, but still good to kind of confirm. People that didn't know me don't watch the video. The why behind what we're doing over here is like resonating with people, like the whole kind of story aspect, and the watch time was too optimistic and should more be like towards a baseline. And I was like, okay, let's go ahead and put the following changes in. Flickering is gone, which I hope you will see in this video that there's no flickering. Make the face bigger. I'm not in the middle of it because I'm doing more almost like screen share, but it is much bigger than it was before. Keep it shorter. I'm not sure I'm actually going to do that. I'm running quite quite short here. I wanted to add a hook. So in the beginning, I just want to add what's most important to take away from this video so that people that are interested can stick, and people that don't think it's interesting, they can just be like, yeah, I don't want to watch it, so they don't have to waste their time. And just be more realistic with the watch time estimates, right? Which that's what I will do in the kind of follow-up experiment. So let's just go through here and say like we want to do a follow-up experiment to this. You can see there's a bunch of other ones. Sometimes I also just use it as a brain dump, but let's go in here. Let's call this second YouTube video, right? Because we're all about being meta, and this is what I'm gonna post. And I don't know, I'm just funny like that, I guess. So we assume that. What do we assume? Find experiments. Interesting enough. Okay. And then a minimum test. We want to measure the average watch time of people that come from direct. Okay, so because the quality is probably still gonna not be amazing, as you can see, I am gonna just measure direct links or externals because and subscribers, because subscribers are probably gonna resonate or know me and will sit through it. But then also externals is just through Twitter. So I'm gonna share a link on Twitter, and then that will be shown as external link in YouTube. Okay, what's the baseline? The last video was like 15% average watch time. Actually, I have to check for some criteria. Actually, I have to go in and I have to look for the same criteria as the one I'm measuring here. So I need to edit this, but for the sake of keeping it short, I'm gonna put that. Okay, so from 15%, what would be a success for me? This is like kind of where a gut feeling comes in. I think 20%, 25%, and then 20% is acceptable, and then under 20 is a failure for me, right? Because I want something where people are interested enough to maybe bump this up a bit, 25. And yeah, that's it. So this is how I prepare it, and then I set a time frame, and then I actually obviously have to execute what I'm saying, and then I will go in here once the results are in, and I will press this button, and it will give me okay, how successful was this? What did I learn? And what are we gonna do next? right? Like those are the important steps that come in after you've run your experiment. And that's it. That's all you kind of have to do, right? You can set this ICE score if you want. You can say, I do it from 1 to 3. I'm saying like, okay, this has a 3 impact, which is like the highest impact. I'm like somewhat confident it's gonna happen. And it's very, it's very low effort, or it's very high effort, right? That's kind of what those mean. I think that, yeah, that's all you need. And I think what's most important is to just, cultivate the mindset of doing less guessing and creating a process that will let you learn and make sure you learn the right things over time. Because I think that a lot of times we over-engineer, certain things, and we don't really spend enough time to think about a minimum way of testing something, and that will cost a lot of time, will produce a lot of waste, that comes to features, or that comes to, starting a YouTube channel or anything else that can be on your whole like idea level, product level, market level. And I think this is just like a fundamental thing you need to cultivate in order to improve over time, because these things will, like bootstrapping something will take a long time, but as long as you're making progress every day and you have a process in place to hold yourself accountable with, or have others hold you accountable with, I think that's one of the most important things you can do. And that's where I'm going to leave you with. Feel free to check out the template. Like I said, it's going to be in the description, and I hope you find it useful. You can always reach me on Twitter or just in the comments. I don't have that many comments that I can't respond to everyone, so just to that. And hopefully you can get some value out of this. All right, peace.